Well, g'day, Damon. How are we?
I'm good, thanks, Geoff. How are you?
I'm very good. And so, what are we doing today, Damon?
So we're on Zoom, obviously. Quite a few people would know the Zoom platform by now with the pandemics that have happened around the globe. But I kind of thought of like we could use this platform to like have conversations between ourselves and also other Land Rover and adventure and whatever enthusiasts that have common interests like ours. Um, so I thought we'll just start off with ourselves and yeah, just see where this kind of like mini side project will go. Because I think there's quite a few interesting characters that we could share some stories with.
Oh, definitely. And when Damon came up with this idea, we've obviously had, a at length chat about it, and there's a lot of people there with some out there with some really, really interesting stories. And we all like listening to stories, and on this particular subject area too. So I think it'll be really, really good. So, what are we calling this series, Damon? I keep losing track.
Uh, I think we'll start off just with Landy Talks.
Yep.
I think that's quite broad, like
I think it's
in terms
solid.
of
Yep.
yeah, and it might develop to something else where we might change it down the track if we get individuals that are in a completely different field that share common interests.
Cool. 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 No, it should be really, really good. And obviously, Zoom is a little bit of a crude medium to do this on, but it's pretty common nowadays. Having said that, I'm pretty new to it. But one of the great things about it is everyone can do it, whether they got a smartphone or a dumb phone. And it means that obviously we can reach out to a lot more individuals to hopefully get them on future chats or episodes and all the rest. But I guess we're just going to share with you what we have been up to this week, which usually we have a conversation maybe twice a week on the phone, and it's never any less than half an hour. So we're going to see if we can keep it to that time frame, but I have a funny feeling it won't. So sit back and relax. So what have you been up to, Damon?
Well, in regards to Land Rovers, as some of you might know, I drive a Disco One as a daily with a 300 TDI in it, and recently I left to go to work, and luckily it was close to home, and I just completely lost all drive, and I thought initially I rolled to a stop on a flat ground right next to a football oval. And I thought, oh, the center diff lock just went into neutral, which is if you have owned even anything with like a LT 230, which is a lot of Land Rover transfer cases, they tend to pop into neutral. And I thought it was this initially, and put it back into high range. And it was already in high range, so I thought that was strange, and went through all the gears. It's an automatic transmission, by the way, and yep, just no drive. So I got out and inspected underneath, like, because there was no bang or anything. It just, when it went to shift up gear, something just kind of jolted, and then the drive completely gone. So yeah, I've not inspected thus far like, what's gone wrong. So all I know at this stage is that it has no drive. Um,
So
so
what could that be, Damon? Because I'm sure you're not the first person that's come across that issue. Is there sort of two or three things that spring to mind that might be worth investigating in regards to that?
yeah. So like it's a 4H22P. Correct me if I'm wrong. Automatic transmission, which is also found in early Range Rovers that had automatic gearbox, and they're also found in BMWs, and I think it was Peugeot, another European car anyway. So it's quite a common gearbox in that to speak. And common faults are the oil pump, so the transmission pump, which is all internal, which is run off of the engine drive. They can fail, but it didn't have any symptoms of that at all, because you can actually drive him generally in diff lock in and first gear.
Oh, yeah.
But there isn't actually that much that goes wrong with them apart from just poor maintenance. But in my situation, I think, and just from what I've read, it's not a very common fault, is the torque converter has actually stripped the inner internal splines, so hence not having any drive anywhere, because obviously you need the torque converter to convert the drive from the engine to the transfer case. So yeah, I think it's just a completely stripped torque converter.
Wow.
So that means taking the gearbox out with the transfer case off the back of the engine from underneath the car, and taking that off, and then really just have a look to see what is wrong with it. And if it's just a torque converter, it's pretty easy fix. You just got to get another one and put it on. Plenty of boxes going around, but initially I was just going to actually put another box on, but it's actually quite hard at the moment to find a 300 TDI automatic transmission, funny enough. Our friend George, he's got plenty of V8 ones, but they're actually quite different because the valve body underneath has different characteristics from the 300 TDI due to engine capacity, torque and power and all the rest. So you can change and swap and change, but there's like the housing, bell housing is different. There's a few other internal things that are different as well, but it's much easier to just find an exact 300 TDI box. So yeah, so I've got a torque converter lined up, which is good. So because they can be used, as far as I'm aware, either they're the same for the V8 and the diesel, as far as I'm aware. So hopefully it's just to pull it out, take it off, and put the torque converter in and reverse all the process of taking it out to putting it back in.
So with the torque converter, is that something that you can just easily buy from a particular business that recos them, or transmission specialist, or?
Well, they're semi-serviceable, but they're very expensive. I think I had a quick look on sites from the UK, and brand new they're close to $700 Australian.
Right.
So, and internals of a torque converter are actually really complex. Like, there's a lot happening inside a torque converter, obviously. And even in an automatic transmission, like, there's a lot going on. But when you break it down, like, because I had not much knowledge of automatic transmissions until this happened, and when you break it down, they're actually quite easy to understand.
Yeah.
So no, it's been a good learning curve.
Yeah.
Because like it being a daily, you kind of just get in, drive, and that's it. And that's why I bought it, because it's just super simple. Get in, drive, do the maintenance you need to do. But yeah, this is just a kind of a unique circumstance.
So how many kilometres has it actually done, the Discovery?
Uh, the
What,
body of the
300?
car, it's about 280,000, I
Okay.
believe.
Yeah.
The engine has got less. I think it's 180 because the original engine, someone did some work on the big end and did it incorrectly. And yeah, but engine's all sweet. So yeah, just must have let go. So it's kind of a very strange circumstance and situation, I think. Like I could not find much on the problem.
Mm.
So it kind of, which tends to happen to me quite a bit. I don't know why. But like there's common problems where it's just like, yep, heaps of info of people saying, oh, this happened and I did this, that didn't work. But in this circumstance, like there's just a lot of questions but no answers kind of situation.
Mm.
So
and the Discovery One now is sort of becoming quite, I guess it's becoming a lot more popular with people who are, wanting a cheap, affordable four-wheel drive. And I guess a lot of people now who are wanting a practical vehicle like yourself as a daily driver, and those who sadly can't afford a series Land Rover, and if they can, don't want the mechanical headaches that can go with that with restoring one. So sort of how much are they sort of going for these days? And I guess the parts are pretty readily available.
Yeah. Well, I think you're right. They are becoming a more desirable Land Rover because they're getting on now. Like mine's a later model 98, but they started just becoming like more available, or people are having more interest in them. I think because they're affordable. So I think I bought mine for $3,500 Australian dollars, and it's immaculate. Like it's been well maintained, and it's got service history from when it was bought in '98.
Wow.
So yeah, it's they're definitely I think because people are cottoning on now with just how simple the car is, and just like the stuff you can do with the Discovery One. If you want to modify it, if you just want to go off-road a little bit, they're very reliable in that sense. And parts, as you say, are really available anywhere. And if you want a spare car, it's really cheap just to get a wreck.
Yeah.
And take parts off of that. It's kind of like the cycle of, all cars go through it eventually. And if it's funny, like when you look at series Land Rovers when they first came out, people kind of in the same mindset until, like, how like cars get older and older, but there's that time where that car won't be worth anything to anyone, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And then time goes on, and then like we've seen it over since we started getting into series Land Rovers, like people used to give them to us.
Yeah.
And now you'd be struggling to find one, and if you find one, you'd be paying top dollar for it, even like with rust in it.
Yeah. Well, I saw someone the other day put a full-length canopy up for a short wheelbase Series 2, and they wanted $700 for it. And I think I bought two for I bought an entire Land Rover and two other canopies for no more than probably $500. So it has all gone a little bit silly, but anyway, that's just the way it is. And we're lucky we bought our vehicles when we did.
That's right.
So, obviously, the Disco, you've got to get this torque converter, and you weren't able to get it back home to the shed that you're in at the moment, were you?
No, no. So luckily, where I was, I it's kind of funny when it happened. So it let go, so it lost drive, and I thought, I don't know. I was kind of thinking it, but I wasn't. Okay, don't know what's happened. I'm going to find somewhere flat where I can either put it on a trailer and get it somewhere. Not like, because you see stupid places, people pull over and break down. And I saw there was a football oval coming up. So I had quite a good momentum going just with no drive. And I chucked it into neutral just in case it was grinding some kind of gears or something, so it wouldn't do any further damage. And I pulled up at this perfect flat car park and even parked it. And yeah, no drive. And so I had to call up a tow truck, which is always a sad day. And I just said, oh, just take it to the farm. So it was probably 15, 20 Ks away, and just got it dropped off there. And yeah, so it now is still there, just sitting in a paddock, just waiting for me. So I've done half the job, in terms of I've ripped the interior out that needs to be ripped out to get the gearbox and transfer case out of the vehicle. So it's all underneath, like drain the ATF out and disconnect some hoses and I need to take the cross member off of the chassis, and then I'll need to get the engine crane to go through the front doors to windlass around the gearbox so I can lower it that way, because I don't, like, it's in a paddock, so I can't really get like a transmission jack underneath and happily jack it down that way and pull it out. So that's how I'll be doing it, that way, which is like a very common way to do it.
Yeah.
So I'll probably, just for weight and everything, I'll take the transfer case off first, and then I'll take the gearbox out separately and just chuck that on a trailer and put it on a workbench and have a good look at it in the clean. So yeah, that's pretty much what I've been doing amongst everything else, in terms of Land Rovers. But I've done quite a few other things on other Land Rovers, because I'm driving the Defender now because I need a car.
Nice.
Which is not a bad thing.
No.
It's great driving that, just around the place and to work and into the city. So it's not like, there's a lot of Defenders on the road still, which is good to see, because it's funny, the car you're driving, you notice more of the same car on the road when you're driving it. That's vice versa for any other car.
Oh yeah.
Because you don't wave when you're in a Disco one. No one really waves.
No.
But when you're in a series or a classic two-door Rangy, I think 4 doors, they're waving a little bit now. But any like series or Defenders, you get the wave. And if you don't do it back, if they don't wave back to me, I kind of get upset a little bit. Not like in a bad way, but I'm like, I often think, oh, what's wrong with him?
Yeah.
Sometimes they don't know. So it's just, I just lean back on it. It's just bad education. Just need to be educated.
It's just etiquette, good etiquette. Yep.
They just need to be taught.
That's right. Well, maybe they haven't been waved at enough as it is, and they haven't picked up on it.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I've lent my Defender a few times to a couple of people, and they've got back and they're just shaking their head like, "What? Why are people waving at me? So many people with Land Rovers. It's funny."
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh, I don't I know a lot of people with Land Rovers, but not all of them, and it's kind of funny.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah, it is a
but,
very different concept compared to any other vehicle.
yeah. Well, I don't like. I think maybe I'm sure there's other classic older cars where they have a wave or
Mm,
some system,
mm.
but it's definitely evident for Land Rovers. That's for sure.
Mm. It'll be interesting to see whether that concept of, waving and acknowledging one another will actually continue on into the new Defender. It's
Well, funny. Sorry, it's funny you say that. Um, because there is a Defender, a new one
mm,
in where I reside in the Huon Valley. There is one I've seen about, and I think the first time I drove past, they waved, and I didn't wave back. I, and
no.
I, no, well, I just don't think it's right. I don't know. I think other people might think differently, but I was in this like proper old classic Defender, and it just didn't feel right for that Defender owner to wave at me and me acknowledge that. Like, I
Yeah.
acknowledge it's a Defender, but it's I think we should call it a new Defender, not a Defender, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know what to do about that, but I've driven past them again numerous times and they don't wave now. So
Yeah. Well, we haven't got any here in Kalgoorlie, so that hasn't become a problem yet. But
no,
no, but
it's funny.
mm, yeah.
But what have you been up to anyway?
Oh yeah. Oh, well, there's always plenty going on. I've just been mainly, focusing on our big trip that we've got coming up in August. And with that, there's a lot of work going on with the vehicles here. We're going to take two vehicles, the Series 3 that we took on the Canning stock route, and then we're going to take the Land Rover Parenti. So the Land Rover Parenti is currently in Goldfields Off-Road, or a friend of mine, Ben, it's in his workshop, and they're actually kitting it all out for the trip, which is fantastic because that takes pressure off you and I. So that's been in there for nearly 8 weeks, and it's taking a lot longer, primarily due to this COVID issue. And one of the issues with it that we were discussing earlier in this week is the availability of Land Rover parts here in Australia. There's been a real big, I guess, not shortage, but just trying to actually get parts, I guess, put together in the UK and then actually sent over here. And even if you buy off Land Rover parts specialists here in Australia, there's certain parts that they don't have, and then you've got to wait for 6 weeks, 2 months, or I think one of our friends has been waiting nearly 12 months for some parts. So it's rather frustrating. So that's sort of happened with the Parenti. And it's just for like simple parts like ball joints and other bits that I would have thought would have been pretty easy to source. But anyway, so that's progressing there. We've got a new HF radio to actually go in it, which will be really cool. And then there's been a lot of work on the Series 3, which you and I have talked about, and there'll be a number of videos coming out on the channel with servicing your 4x4 series. So we've got a brand new rebuilt engine that's going to be going in it. I've pulled the old engine out, which is really easy. I think there's 3 wires that connect to it, and that's it. And pulling the transmission out is a lot easier than a Discovery. You can actually, if you have your wheat bix that morning, you can actually lift the whole thing yourself and put it over on the bench pretty much. Not that I did that, but you could if you're a a strong individual. So yeah, taking that out is a piece of cake. You just take the floor plates out, the seat box out, and I had to disconnect the fuel lines running from the tank on the driver's side to the passenger side because we've got dual tanks in it. So I pulled that out, and I'm split the transfer case off the gearbox because for some reason, and I don't know why, but the transfer case is just blowing out vast quantities of oil, and it looks like it's actually blowing it through the transmission brake. So all the brake pads are just drenched in oil. I've had a look at the seal. I'll replace the seal and do a few other things and investigate it a bit further. But so yeah, so I'll do a heap of work on the transfer case. I'll go through the gearbox and double check all that since it's out. And then it's just been cleaning all the sand, muck and crud underneath the Series 3. And and getting the motor ready to go in, which hopefully I should be able to put it in this weekend, which will be really good.
That'd be nice. No, I don't think that. I think people have seen the engine, maybe glimpses of it. I think we have a video as well.
Yeah, we do.
Video, but
yeah,
I think a lot of people will be excited to see what you're doing with that engine, and and the additions it's got on it, and being a rebuilt engine, like fully rebuilt, is exciting as well.
Oh yeah, well, you and I have never ever had a motor like that before, and the old motor that was in it, it did everything we wanted it to do on the Canning stock route and all the rest, but it's just a very, very tired engine. So I'm looking forward to putting it in, getting the carburetor tuned, which we're putting a SU carburetor on it, and just you and I sitting on the highway, being able to do maybe 80, 90 if we're lucky, and just sit back and just cruise and relax.
I'm excited to see and use the Roma drive because I haven't seen that yet.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Well, that's awesome piece of kit. Like they're quite expensive, but when you get it and you look at it, you can see, there's been a lot of thought and a lot of craftsmanship actually gone into it. So that's going to be great. I'm really looking forward to testing that out on a number of the sand dunes on the Connie Sue. And I've already had a play in the sand dunes down on the coast, and just being able to have that overdrive to engage when you're in low range, just to make low range a little bit higher, makes a big difference on sand.
Yeah, well, I think it definitely in that situation be more evident. Essentially, I suppose the way I look at a Roma drive is you call them like a 0.5 gear. So like you got 1.5 to 2.5. So that's kind of like, that's just how I kind of process it and break it down and to how it actually it kind of acts within the vehicle and within its ratios. Would that be a good way you think of?
Yeah, I think so.
Kind of break it down.
Yeah. You can essentially think of it as like an extra gear, or just an extra, 4 or 8 gears, because you've got 4 different ratios in high range, and then you've got 4 different ratios in low range, and it gives you, I think, a 26% increase in your gear ratio, which, from when I've used it, is really just perfect. It means you can sit on 90 kilometers an hour on the highway, which for these vehicles is fast enough. Like, you really don't be going any more than that, because the brakes aren't great at the best of time. And you got no power steering or stability control or anything like that. So, it's perfect for us. And one of the things I'm going to be really interested to see is the fuel economy, which is a big thing out here, because there's vast distances. I've got to do a trip in the Series 2 in a couple of weeks' time, and that's going to be probably close to 500 kilometres with no, it'll be 1,000-kilometre round trip with no places to fill up along the way. So having any way of being able to cut down that fuel consumption makes a big difference.
Yeah, so you'll be, for that trip for the Series 2, you'll just be taking jerry cans because you've only got the 45-litre original tank, is that right?
Yeah, I'll be taking lots of jerry cans, but the good thing is I think you get about 200 or 250 kilometres out of a tank, and that's about usually when I'm ready to have a break. So, just a good excuse to stop, have a cup of tea, light the billy, and then fill yourself up with a cuppa, fill the Land Rover up with a cuppa, and off you go again. So, no, it'll be good. It'll be good.
Oh, that's great. And you've been using the Series 2 as a daily as well.
Yeah, we've had a similar issue to yourself. My wife Claire, she drives a X-Trail, Nissan X-Trail, and that has just been dying a very, very slow, agonising death. And we spent a month over in Tassie where we did Edge of the Earth Part 3, Damon, obviously, for the viewers. Came back and it's not a happy little X-Trail at all. All the coils has a coil for each cylinder. Found out that they're all pretty much knackered, and the rear diff is completely and utterly stuffed. So, as I said, the Parenti's getting work done to it, the Series 3's in bits, so it's all down to the mighty Series 2.
And I think you sent me because I only saw it yesterday, I think, a video of you guys at it looked like the fuel station, and you pulled out the crank handle and started it up and off you went. Yeah,
so I picked up Claire from work and dropped her off at an appointment. And then we hopped back in the car and or in the Landy and turned the key, went to push the button, and something must have jammed in the switch, because after that Claire said, "Oh, what's that?" Because it was a plume of smoke that came out of it. So all the smoke pressure in the wires, if you don't know, it's all about smoke pressure with British Electrics, came out, dissipated in the atmosphere. And now the starter button doesn't work. So every time I stop the car, I've got to be mindful that there's enough room in front of the car to put the crank handle in, so I can turn it over. So I've been doing that for about a week now, and I haven't had anyone come up and go, "Oh, I haven't seen that before." So we'll wait and see. But anyway, it's keeping me fit, So it's good, and I'm really, really glad that a couple months ago I replaced the coil, the ignition leads, did all the ignition system, and tuned it properly, because it makes it a lot easier when you're turning it over by hand.
Oh, it does. It does. You'll have it down to a fine art, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, getting pretty good. But I'm glad I can use a crank handle and I don't have to jack up the bank wheel and turn it over that way. It's a bit cumbersome. Yeah.
You'd just leave the car running if you had to do that.
Yeah, pretty much.
You're just running to the shops.
Well, a friend of mine here, he has a Defender similar age to yours, and the ignition barrel's so worn, he can actually just take the key out, the car will keep running. So, so there is advantages to having a car that's got a bit of wear and tear.
That's a new definition of keyless.
It is, yeah. So, and I guess... Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, you've been working on something else, Damon, with Road to Ruin.
Road to Ruin, yes. Yeah.
You better tell us about that.
So we've got the short film has obviously been displayed at cinemas over the last few months, which has all been received very well. But we also have another kind of variant of that, which is a I think at the moment it's a 4-part series of Road to Ruin. So we don't really know what we're going to do with it, but if you've seen the short film, that's a super, super compressed version of all the antics that went on that trip. So the series, the 4-part series, is something that landy enthusiasts will love even more, because we actually get into the nitty gritty of what went wrong, and there's a lot more problems that came up on the trip that weren't shown in the short film. So the series kind of has more of that in the actual films itself, and there's also a lot of other like geographical talks to camera, more history of the track, which is what we initially wanted to do. There's just so much footage that we collected on that trip that, like even in the one I've been editing, it's there's a lot that I still haven't included. Just not because it's not bad. It's just there's a lot of stuff that isn't necessary, but like that's just the nature of like making a production. There's a lot of things that you might love this shot and it just doesn't work for what you're trying to get across to the audience. So you just cut it out. It goes straight to the floor, cutting room floor. So it's so that's what I've kind of been doing as well in the background when I've got spare time. I've been editing the series. So and it's great because we obviously filmed it a little while ago now. It's kind of going down memory lane, watching them back and with fresh eyes as well, which is very important. Because I initially edited quite a bit after the trip, so I think I was kind of biased in a way towards what we were doing and what we wanted to get out of it. But coming back with fresh eyes, I'm kind of more open to what we need to include and making some decisions that you need to cut this and that out just so it works better. So so that's kind of what I've been doing in the background and chipping away at. So it's interesting. It'll be interesting to see what comes out of it.
It will, and it's getting closer and closer too, and it's looking really good. And the short film, hopefully, we'll have a development or two with that in the coming weeks.
Yeah. So for those that are interested, this is evident in Australia, but I'm sure it's elsewhere as well. You need to get enabling the short film to be shown on, say, like a video on demand platform and TV and all the other common media outlets, even DVD, if you're into that still. It needs to be classified. So we've kind of, we've both had chats to the guys at the classification board. We're in New South Wales, I believe, over the phone, just discussing what we need to do to get the film classified. So that's been a learning curve for us both, because like it's not common knowledge. You kind of have to go look for it. And we found that with even putting the short film out at cinemas, you need a document that enables you to screen it at cinemas. So we would have, we didn't know anything about that until we looked into it.
No.
So, yeah.
No. We didn't even know that they wouldn't sell the tickets too.
Yeah, that's right. It's been a good learning curve, and there's not many people I know that, there's no one I know that's doing what we've done in terms of our genre and putting it out at cinemas as a like a sole film by itself, because normally the platforms at a film festival level, which is super common, you'd submit a film to a festival, and then they'll play it alongside other films that are in the same genre or classification. And because of COVID-19, film festivals aren't really happening anymore. They are slowly coming back, but because that's what the short film was initially for, was for film festival entries, just to see what we would receive in terms of feedback. But I'm kind of happy the way it's gone, because of it's a very niche audience we have, and as we found out, it's kind of it's got a lot of interest in people that aren't actually interested in Land Rovers, more kind of the adventure kind of genre people that are interested in that are coming to see the film as well. So, I think it's 100% feedback is from, like, if the people turn up, they've come to see our film, which is really cool. And because at film festivals, like, I definitely can say that I've wanted to see just one film, but you kind of have to watch another 5 films to get to the one you want to watch. So it's really good feedback that we've gotten so far from all the screenings, as I'm sure you would agree.
Yeah, and like the last screening that we did was in Tasmania, in the Huon Valley, which is obviously where Damon is now, and it's where I'm from too. And that was fantastic. You know, and what we've been doing, for those of you who don't know, is we've been showing the film, and because the film is a short film, I think does it run for about 40, 45, 50 minutes, Damon? Is that about right?
Yeah, about that.
Yeah, about that. So we really want to make it an enjoyable, fun evening. So the idea is that we show the film, and then after it we do like a Q&A session. So if you have any questions about the film, if you have any questions about the Canning stock group, or even about maybe Land Rovers or series Land Rovers, or just tackling an adventure of that, you know, length and magnitude, you can put your hand up and you know, have a chat to us, or give us some feedback on the film too. So that's been really good, and that's sort of one of the reasons why, along with this bigger trip that we're doing later in the year, we're sort of holding off doing further screenings of the film or showings of the film until potentially later on in the year, because it's more of an event than just a showing of the film. And with the current COVID restrictions, which are changing a lot over the last month and may do over the next couple of weeks, it's just a bit too difficult to actually book in cinemas at this stage, you know, a month in advance, which is basically what you have to do.
Yeah, and I suppose we do get quite regular questions on our social media platforms. When's it coming out online? Going back to the classification board, that's something we're working on. In the background is getting it ready to submit to those online platforms, which is another process in itself, and within that process there's a lot more processes. So it's not as simple as, you know, approaching, everyone knows Netflix, approaching them, here's a film, can you put it up? It doesn't work like that. There's standards you have to reach, and you have to tick all the right boxes. Netflix is really hard. There's cameras, they get down to the nitty gritty of if there's approved cameras that they have to abide by, that they can only put up onto the platform. So all of the cameras are pretty high end. We did film Rotoron on an accepted camera for Netflix, so that's fine. But yeah, it's just not as simple as people might think. So, and it'll be our first time, so we're learning as we go. It's like anything, the first time's always a bumpy journey, but once you do it, it'll be easier the next time, and so on. So, and with that becomes you build relationships with people that are on the receiving end, and from there they know you, and vice versa, and then you build that rapport, and the process becomes easier. It kind of becomes more organic and easier to do. So yeah, that's probably our next big journey as well, amongst everything else that we're doing.
Yep, and that's sort of the aim, I guess, isn't it, Damon? Like once you've got that process, and doing something the first time, and for those of you who obviously aren't doing sort of the film side of things, but just to give a bit of an example, it's like removing the front axle from your Land Rover. It took me 3 times to get it right. I did it once, and I looked down on the ground and I forgot to put the axle in because I put the wheel up together. So you make a lot of mistakes along the way, and so finding that right way of actually getting to the objective can take quite a bit. And as Damon said, it's about finding the right people to sort of talk to, and getting the right information too. And as you also mentioned, Damon, no one else is really doing this. No one's really sort of making films or adventure films like this and showing them in cinemas anymore. Here in Australia, probably the last sort of big film to do that was probably World Safari 2 with Mr. Albie Mangles, which I've had at quite a few screenings. They want more Albie Mangles. So yeah, so no one's really doing this. So it is all very new, and people, particularly with a lot of these online streaming services, because no one else is doing stuff like this, they're a little bit sort of standoffish. They think that there isn't a proven track record with this genre. So yeah, so it's going to be really, really interesting. But yeah, we'll see how the short film comes along in the coming months, but it's getting closer. And I had confirmation from our friend Adam in the UK that the classic Land Rover gathering is actually going to be going ahead, and that's going to be our UK premiere of Road to Dream. So I'll try and put a link in the content section down below, and you can click on that and find some more information if you reside in that part of the world.
Awesome. Oh, that's exciting. Having it at a international Land Rover gathering.
Yeah. It's just a shame we can't be there, Damon, because I think it'd just be it'd be an electric atmosphere. It would.
Oh yeah, it would be great. Who knows? One year we might make it over there.
We'll wait and see. And they've got a guy called Blashford Snell, I think it might be. I've said that probably completely wrong, but he led the expedition that drove the Pan American Highway, I think it was, in the Range Rovers back in the 1990s.
Ah, yes, that's right. Yeah.
So he's actually going to, and this is, if you can make it to this, he's actually going to be doing a talk, and he's going to be presenting some prizes, and I believe he may even be introducing our film. So that's pretty awesome. I'm pretty chuffed.
It is.
So
yeah, that is great. It'd be awesome to be there, but can't, obviously, with the restrictions. But I'm sure we'll get good feedback from our UK fans, especially Adam being there. So
yep. So no, it'd be great. It'd be great. But anyway, see what happens down the track.
Yeah, time will tell. Well, that's we've chatted for quite some time.
We have.
All right.
We aimed for 15-20 minutes, and the first little recording we did was that. So anyway, if you've made it to the end of the video, top job as always. Thank you very much. It's always interesting to see who's hanging around. Not that we can, but you can just see it in the analytics and all the rest. But thanks for watching to the end. And yeah, if you like it, obviously let us know in the comments down below. Give us a thumbs up, and we'll produce a few more of these. And hopefully you and I, Damon, will have a chat with a few more individuals who are as passionate as we are about using these vehicles for what they were built and intended to be used for.
Yeah. Just if we continue doing this, even just ourselves, and then the in-betweens of introducing other people to our channel, and I think it would be a good format. Obviously this one a bit clunky, but let us know what you think.
Cool. Okay, well we'll catch you in our next video.